Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our show today. So today we have two very young authors in our show today. They're gonna talk some of their experience to the audience and also share some ideas for people that are interested in publishing their own books. So we have Jaden and Albert. So we will start with Jaden to do a self-introduction and also introduce us a little bit more about your book. Hi, Jaden.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the lovely introduction. So I'm Jaden. I wrote the book Memories at the Sea. I was really lucky to have the opportunity to write this book during the pandemic when there was probably not much else to do. So basically this book is about like the journeys of a young orphan boy during the Industrial Revolution in London. So during this time is very tough for, people who don't have homes, especially like orphans, right? And it's basically about him finding meaning in his life, even during all these hardships, through his like unique personality and through, some lucky circumstances. And it seeks to talk about like the power of relationships people can have with each other and how that can really bring a lot of meaning into our lives.
Thank you very much, Jaden. It sounds like a lot of research are involved, and also it's a very thoughtful story. So, and I see the book is actually very thick. I'm sure you spend tons of time into it, which is very amazing. Thank you for sharing your book with us. And the second author, Albert. So, Albert, we want to know more about you and also the first book that you published.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for the introduction. So my name is Albert Lowe. I was born and raised in Canada, but my parents are originally from Lanzhou and Dalian. I'm currently in 12th grade. And so this summer I became a published author, and my book is called The Five. So a little bit more about myself. I have a number of hobbies and extracurriculars that I'm passionate about. So obviously I love to read and write, but outside of that, I've been enjoying a lot of creative nonfiction. So I've been reading a lot of memoirs and personal essays as well. To introduce a little bit about my book, it's the combination of a lot of different captivating stories from my childhood into the story that I wanted to tell from my imagination. And so the idea for my book actually came when I was still in the early years of middle school. That's when the first idea really came to me. And I really wanted to write a novel about characters that I designed and a story that I wanted to tell to other people. And so for me, there was no better way to do that than to write my own book. And so just to provide an overview of the novel, I'll read like a synopsis of the story. So, a vengeful foe, a crumbling kingdom, the final hope resting in the feeble palms of four intrepid children, chosen by prophecy for their powerful elemental abilities. Jack, Linda, Sky, and Kyle. And yet these ill-fated adventurers will soon learn that it will take more than four to save the kingdom from the mysterious evil that threatens their homes.
Wow, that's actually very amazing. It's a story, and I'm sure it is very fun. It like by different people, very like a magic story. I believe lots of people would like it. Yeah, so it's very amazing for young people like you to publish a book at that age. I mean, and also I'm very interested in the incentive or what is the motivation for you to write a book. I mean, lots of people at their young age, they read books and they want to become an author, but they're always just a thought, never come to become a truth. So what makes you to really write a book and makes that kind of motivation to be a real thing? So let's start from Jaden first.
So I think writing in any like literature, whether fiction, nonfiction, whatever, is kind of an exploration of yourself. So like for me, when I was writing, I was really learning a lot about what I thought my purpose was and like how I valued myself as a person, or what was important to me. And I think that it's very important to like leave these memories of yourself because for me to communicate to myself, it's basically just to like write. Some people that's like diaries. For me, it's like creative writing. I really want to like remember the instances of my pandemic experience, and I think I really tried to like bringing a lot of like inspirations or like thoughts I had during the pandemic when we're all locked up into my book. So it's kind of more of a self-exploration motivation.
Okay, thank you very much, Jaden. And what about Albert? What is your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. I think for me, writing the book is also a very personal experience. As I talked a little bit about during my book introduction, The Five, my book was an attempt for me to create a story that I thought was missing in the world. It was a story that I wanted to tell. So I combined a lot of different influences from a lot of different stories and the best parts that I enjoyed the most, and I want to tell that story. So I've always loved to read and write. When I was actually really young, I really enjoyed making my own comic books. So that's how I started out telling stories when I was really young. But for the first probably 14 years of my life, I was really extremely into fiction. And that's when I got the idea for this book. And so for me, the reason that I wrote the book, The Five, was because I wanted to tell that story of all those different influences from the stories that I read as a kid, and from these fantastical wild worlds into one story that I thought would be a really great part to share with the world.
Thank you very much, Albert, and thanks for Jaden also sharing both of your thoughts behind it. So we also want to know, after you publishing your book, what is the most important thing? What is the most important feeling that you get from that experience? Jaden.
I think publishing is definitely a very unique experience. It's definitely very different to, having, someone like your editor reading your work and giving you some feedback. I think what is very unique about both Albert and my experience is that we actually get to work with some illustrators, some student illustrators who are also around our same age, so around high school. And that was really amazing, trying to share our story with them and then having them, draw or paint or illustrate, our story back to us. So I think our publishing experience was really unique because we get to, kind of go through the entire journey, right? We get to write, we get feedback, and we also get to work with other people trying to inspire each other.
So the entire process, actually, you really enjoy it, like working with others and also share the ideas with others. Okay, thank you very much. And what about Albert?
Yeah, I agree as well. I think, as Jaden mentioned, in the publishing process, there's a lot of sharing that you have to do with other people. So in our particular cases, we used to take, writing and creative writing as more so like hobbies of ours. We'd write for ourselves and not so much think about kind of how we could actually share it with the rest of the world. And so through this publishing experience, I've learned so much about myself as a writer and developing it. So I can't thank Skykey Publishing enough for this amazing opportunity. I used to think that, again, as I mentioned, writing was just a hobby of mine and that it would never really amount to much. But Skykey has shown me that if I put my mind to producing a story that I'm really passionate about and I share it with other people and I work with other people, there will definitely be other people in the world that are willing to read that story in that book.
Okay, thank you very much. And in the end, we want to know if young people like your age, they want to realize their dream as becoming an author, is there any suggestions or any helpful tips that you can offer to them to help them become an author as well? Jaden.
Yeah. I think aside from the advice of just writing as much as you can, I think every author has their unique way of writing and their own path to writing. For me, it's just, in the beginning, I tried to copy or emulate some of my favorite authors' work. And so reading a lot was really important for me, especially when you're writing fiction. I would say staying within your fiction world is really important. You have to constantly think about your characters, about the world that you're building. So I would say if you're trying to write a longer story, just, set some time for yourself every single day. And then make sure that it's a routine, right? So, for me, it was around the morning or afternoon that I would write. So whenever that time hits, I just can automatically lock in into the world that I created and can really focus upon, the fiction world that I have.
So being able to transfer from one word to another word. Very important. Okay, thanks. What about Albert? Do you have any suggestions for people like you that want to become an author?
Yeah. I think there's a lot of information that's being thrown around about instructions on how to write a book or how to write an essay or how to write an article or really any form of writing. And I think people try to simplify down the process into like very clear steps, like, oh, step 1, you need a plan. Step 2, you need an outline. Step 3, you have to draft. Step 4, you have to revise. And step 5, you have to repeat everything. And I think it's very hard, especially for younger writers, to fit into these like very cookie cutter procedures. I think each writer is very unique. And as Jaden mentioned, we all have our own styles to develop. So I think more often than not, as Jaden mentioned, it's very important for writers just to start writing. They often get stuck on steps 1 and 2. So they'll be stuck drafting and outlining, and they're not really sure if their ideas are good enough to begin with, or if it's organized in a coherent way. And I think to get over that barrier, the most important thing, as Jaden mentioned, is to develop a routine of writing. Your first draft won't be perfect, and that's okay. But what you really need to do is get ideas on paper and really start that procedure of writing things down. And thereon, that's when your ideas can really develop.
Okay, thank you very much, Albert, and thanks, Jaden, for both of you to share your ideas. And I hope people that are interested in writing a book can learn from you and learn from the experience and also become an author themselves. Thank you very much for coming to our show today, and thanks for sharing all these ideas. Thank you. Okay, bye, everyone, and thanks for everyone to watch our show today. See you next week.